What transpired over the next 2 hours was something that, to this day, I'm still trying to... I know it happened because Lucy's kept a diary for decades and we reread it and it's all true. But what happens to the wine? And she said, I'd rather not say. And he said, you don't. And she went, I'd rather not. He was like, oh my God, you literally throw them away, don't you? As we turned around and saw the Taj Mahal, I had this very kind of emotional, visceral reaction, seeing something which everyone knows kind of what it looks like, but to sort of see it in the flesh, and because it was built as an act of love, I felt incredibly moved.
Welcome to Travel Secrets with me, Tanya Rose, the podcast sharing wisdom for fellow travellers. Each week, I ask my guests to reveal their 6 travel secrets and the holidays and adventures that surround them. I would just like to say thank you to Mason Rose, the sales and communication agency that represents some of the finest hotels around the world, for partnering with Travel Secrets, the podcast. Today, my guest is the wonderful British actor, Alistair Petrie.
Very good.
Well done, Tanya. I've got a friend who's called Petrie, so... Yeah,
Petrie, Scotland, and Petrie down south. So if I'm in Scotland, they'll all say Petrie, and I would never correct, because I will go with both.
Famed for so many roles in film, theatre and TV, you first came to my notice as Sandy in The Night Manager, which I am so delighted to hear that you will be doing The Night Manager too.
Correct.
Can't wait. It was the best TV show. It was absolutely amazing. And I can't believe it was so long ago.
It was 10 years ago, I think. But we shot, I think we shot it about 10 if not, 10 years ago.
And then obviously Sex Education.
Sex Education, locations weren't as glamorous. Wales is lovely and I love Wales dearly, but it wasn't Marrakesh or Mallorca.
And also Star Wars.
Yes, space. Amazing. So a lot of traveling involved in
I loved what you said about Star Wars, which is I need a good name and I need a line.
That's all it had to be. Because I just wanted to go into the cinema and just give me a name. I don't want to be Senator Number 4. Give me a cool name and a line. And it worked out.
And you got more than that.
I did. It was great.
And what were you called?
General. I was General. I've got to say this quite slowly. General Davids Draven, 5-star general. I had this thing. My costume had this. We called it my strepsils. That I was a 5-star general and had this kind of square thing that had 5 sort of dots, like the 5 dots on a dice. And so every time before I went on set, I actually wanted to nick it. But at the end of when we finished shooting and I tried to nick it, and they were just like, could we just, did the strepsils fall into your bag? And I went, yes. Could you just give it to the driver? I went, I'm so sorry. Silly me. Yeah, because everything is, everything is
They didn't gift it to you. How
very
No, they
upsetting. Didn't. I did another film called Hellboy. And you want to take, it wasn't about thieving. It's just about taking a memento. Yeah. And we finished filming in Bulgaria, and I had a suspicion there wasn't going to be a sequel because it wasn't the greatest film in the world. And I thought, I just don't know if there's going to be a sequel. So I'm sure this beautiful kind of skull and crossbones brooch that I had for this very swishy cloak thing also happened to fall into my bag, and yet again I got another phone call just going, oh, did the skull and crossbones thing fall into your bag by accident? I went, oh God, gave it back to the driver. So I'm not very good. I'm not a good thief.
I think they've got that on your notes. Make sure nothing falls into his bag.
Don't make sure the thieving doesn't nick stuff. I'm very good. It's nominal thieving. It's not really.
That's hilarious. So you grew up, your father was an RAF pilot, and you grew up all over the world, Middle East, Europe,
all over.
East Africa?
Yep, East Africa. So he came ostensibly from a sort of a family in Scotland. His father went abroad to work to find work. He was basically a sort of textile engineer to get work, and so he was in South Africa. And so my dad was sort of being brought up as effectively by his mother with his 2 siblings in a tiny flat in Aberdeen. And he went to the grammar school in Aberdeen because of his sporting abilities. He was a very good rugby player, and he was very bright. But that got him into a grammar school, and he knew what he wanted to do, which was fly aircraft. And so there was not a lot of money in the family at all. And so the local church did a whip round to get the money together for his train fare to go down south in order to have the interview, because he became an Air Force pilot. So that meant that opened up an extraordinary world to him, a world he obviously never knew about. And that in a way catapulted my sister and I into, it's entirely responsible for the kind of the world in which we exist, now, which is sort of something remarkable really. But that meant moving every 3 years and we followed,
So tell us a little bit about how you grew up and how travel impacted the person that you've become.
Well, it was a sort of semi-nomadic lifestyle, actually, because I was born in Yorkshire and we were there for 6 months, so I remember nothing about it. I'll claim to be from Yorkshire, which I'm very happy to do so. And then it was some Europe, Germany, and then the big exciting one in a sense was Saudi Arabia.
Oh my goodness, a long time ago.
Yeah, a long time ago in the 70s, and I remember it well. I was 7 years old, arrived, and it was startling, really. But it took me a sort of completely culturally as a 7-year-old out of everything that I knew, which was a rather kind of magnificent experience. And it was a very outdoors. It was a lot of military people there, a lot of sort of UK, US companies, and so a lot of Americans. So I kind of lived this sort of hybrid Americana, Arabic kind of lifestyle in a way. And it was amazing. And I look back at it with huge fondness. But I would have been educated in the American system. So I was at basically a primary school on the British Aerospace Base till I was 10. But it was a decision to be made. Either you go through the American high school system or you come back to the UK. And so I came back to the UK to school when I was 10. And that was a shock in itself. I remember when my mother brought me back and I was dropped in this school in Maidenhead, and she then left and flew back to Saudi Arabia, and I was left. And because Maidenhead, the school I was at, is on the flight path, every time the plane flew over, I was like,
I should be on that going.
I don't go home. And eventually the French teacher kicked me out, and she said, "Oh, for God's sake, go and see matron." I think she gave me a sedative, weirdly. I really think she gave me something, which is probably highly illegal now. I think she dosed me up with something that made me feel a little bit sleepy for a while.
And a bit happier.
Yeah, a little happier. I was much calmer about the work.
So you used to go back for holidays, did you?
Used to go back for holidays. And then, Nigeria was my sort of teenage years, which was great. But moving basically from the age of about 0 to 10, moving every sort of 2 to 3 years. Yeah. Which definitely informed the way I sort of approach travel, really, in the sense that sort of everywhere should be a sort of a big adventure, and new is exciting rather than intimidating, although intimidating can be good when it comes to travel. But so there was lots of it.
Lovely.
And that also informed going forward when Lucy and I had children. We knew that we wanted to sort of drop travel raisins in front of the kids and take them to places to give them a sense of the world that they may take through their adult life. That felt rather important to us.
And then when you went to Lambda and obviously studied to be an actor, did you think, oh, good, I'll be able to travel with this?
Yeah, definitely. But also, I think the main thing was that I didn't have any worries about the travel of it, in the sense that living a sort of semi-nomadic lifestyle as the offspring of someone in the Air Force, I thought, oh, travel's great, rather than... I didn't really have a home per se, in the sense that I was sort of sleeping on sofas and stuff. And so the notion of having to go somewhere and do something else, be it some regional theatre, was like, great, what an adventure. It wasn't as though I was leaving something. I was going to somewhere, which was a sort of an excitement rather than anything else.
And you did a lot of Shakespeare, didn't you, when you started?
Yeah, I did some, yeah.
So was that regional?
That was at the RSC. So I mean, the main Shakespeare I did at the RSC, but that was great. And in the sense that it was a year-long thing, the year before I got married, actually, but that was a year-long, involved loads of, and it was the regional tour. So we took it to all over the place, to leisure centres, in the all sorts of places. But the payoff, in a sense, at the end, we took a play, we did Troilus and Cressida, and it was a play about war, which we took to Tel Aviv in Israel.
Oh, amazing.
And then we went to New York with it.
Fabulous.
And so we were sort of grinding our way towards the glamour bit.
The New York.
Yeah. We're off
lights.
to New York. And I do remember, one evening we did, I think, a couple of weeks in New Haven in Connecticut as well. And we had a day out in New York, and we ended up having very expensive drinks at the Mercer in New York. And we got out of the Mercer, about a gang of 6 of us. And some very nice person on the door said, "Would you like a car to take you home?" And we said, "Lovely." And he pointed at a stretch limo, and he said, the driver said, "Where do you need to go?" And we went, New Haven, Connecticut, which I think slightly startled him. And it was a very hot night, and we piled into this limousine. We played Jeff Buckley really, really loud, raided the minibar, and they took us back to New Haven, and didn't quite realize that we had to pay for the trip at the end of it. We cobbled it together, and it was fine.
Oh no.
It was
You
fun.
thought it was complimentary.
I know, theatre wages disappeared.
Oh, that's hilarious. Well, let's get into your travel secrets.
Yes.
What is the number one destination you think everyone should go to once in their lifetime?
I have spent ages trying to narrow this down, and I think it is somewhere that culturally takes you out of yourself and should feel a little daunting. And certainly for me, that was a trip we made in 2019 with the boys, and we went to Northern India. I'd always wanted to go, but I was intimidated by it. And I think India is probably the place that everybody should go because it does culturally take you out of yourself. And it's a place that is constantly full of surprises. And also the people. So much about travel is about the people that you meet and the kindness and the generosity and the interest that we experienced in India. And we did 2.5 weeks, barely scratching the surface, but we did northern India, the northern triangle, and it was just a kind of a glorious adventure for a whole bunch of reasons. So I would say India would probably be number one, and it's probably quite a common number one, but I think somewhere that culturally takes you out of yourself, that is scary.
Did your kids love it?
Yes, they did. We did it in a way that we thought, well, how do you do India? And we thought we can't do it on our own. We can't say, let's just fly into New Delhi and just figure it out. We had to have someone organize it on our behalf, and we were so glad. And they did it brilliantly. Audley Travel organized it, and they were fantastic.
Yeah, they're great. Very good.
All of their staff have done the trip, so they know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And they said, well, what kind of accommodation do you want to stay in? And we said, well, we don't want to go sort of corporate. We want, and so they're kind of those brilliant sort of, I guess, bed and breakfasts, whatever, were just fantastic. And
did you stay in any of the palaces?
Well, there is we have this familial connection with the Umaid Bhawan.
Oh.
So we didn't stay there, but in the 1950s, Lucy, my wife's father, was at school, and the first day he arrived at this boarding school, this little Indian boy came in, and while sort of roll call was being done on a Sunday night or whatever, they reeled off the names, and there was this little boy, and the housemaster came up to my wife's father and just said, there's this young Indian boy. He won't be going back in school holidays. Would it be all right if he could sort of stay with you? And of course they went, yeah, it's fine, great. So for the entire kind of 5 years of school, basically all school holidays were spent with my wife and my wife's family, and the uncles were all at the same school. It was all rather lovely, and. He's the Maharaja of Jodhpur, and was at the time, because he became the Maharaja when he was very young, because his father, I think, was killed in a plane crash. But that was sort of irrelevant. So Babji, as he's now known, very much in the family. So part of
his mate.
He's just he's just a mate. So when we were going to India, we thought, it'd be quite nice to sort of see Babji,
Of course, as you do.
Your mate.
Yeah.
And we didn't really know too much about it. So Lucy spoke to her uncle and said, we wanted to get in touch with Babji. What's the best way to get in touch with him? And he said, just WhatsApp him. So he WhatsApped him. And he said, Frank immediately got a message back going, yeah, great. Then you should come to the party on New Year's Eve, which we're having at the Palace. And he thought, yeah, great. Okay. Yeah, no, well, we can do that. Anyway, kind of very long story short, we arrived. He said, and then another message came through saying, there's a polo match beforehand somewhere in the afternoon on New Year's Eve. So come to the polo. So great, we'll go to the polo. So we arrived at the polo, and sort of Babji arrived in this sort of cortege of cars. And we were sort of sitting there, and I said to Lucy, go and say, you've got to
go and say hello.
And she went, I can't. I mean, it's like going up to the king and saying, just go. Anyway, she eventually did. And I sort of was watching as she sort of shuffled down the sort of the way. And there was this sort of half a beat, and then he threw up his arms, gave her a massive hug. And then a couple of minions came running over and saying, right, this is the plan, this is what you've got to do, and all the rest of it. So that evening, we had the most sensational sensational evening at the New Year's Eve Christmas party, which was sort of a traveling thing. I mean, it was amazing. They had it up at the fort because it was very windy. So they moved it from the Umaid Barwan at the last minute and did it on the hill fort. And it was extraordinary. And we had dinner with him, and everyone was coming up to say hello. And we were just flabbergasted.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it was amazing. But there was one when I told my brother-in-law, who had stayed at the Umaid Barwan years before, he said, God, one of the weird things I wish I'd always done, having stayed at the Umaid Barwan. He said, I used to wake up, they stayed there for 3 nights, my brother-in-law and sister. So we used to wake up, and I used to wake up to the sound of an old English petrol mower mowing the lawns. Mm-hmm. And he said, it's my biggest regret that I didn't record that sound, because it's the most wonderful English sound of an old petrol lawnmower.
In India?
In India. And I said, yeah, that's such a shame. I said, leave that with me. So I spoke to Bubji. I told him this story. And then he said, well, tomorrow, New Year's Day, you must come to the palace and you must record the mowers. Amazing. And I thought, well, that would be lovely. Anyway, the next morning we arrived at the Umaid Barwan, and we had some sort of late breakfast. And I looked out on the lawn, and there was a phalanx of garden staff, all with these old English mowers. And I went onto the lawn, and I pulled out my iPhone, and I recorded. And they were completely bemused about why they were doing this. It was as though we literally just mowed the lawns. But anyway, they redid the lawns, and I just recorded it, and I sent it to my brother.
I bet he thought that was the most amazing present that he'd ever received.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Well, what a wonderful way to do India.
It was incredible.
That's amazing. So you'll never forget that.
Never.
And it is one of those places that you do have to go to and experience, because it's not unlike anywhere else, isn't it?
I think it is. And I think it's a place that you probably have to sort of go, do a part of it, return home, carry on with your life, and then return to and see more and more of it as much as you can. You sort of, as I said, you can only scratch the surface in a couple of weeks, but it felt there's a pull to return and go to different aspects. And it was extraordinary.
Amazing. Well, I was going to ask you what your most unexpected travel experience is, and you could actually say staying with the Maharaja of Jodhpur. But
it was. I've got another one though involving dolphins, so I could tell you.
So please tell me your most unexpected.
The most unexpected was when Lucy was pregnant for the first time. I said, "Well, our lives are about to change." So in a very good way, but we should go somewhere, anywhere. Where should we go on a sort of a last trip before our first child arrives? And she said, do you know, I've always wanted to go wild swimming with dolphins. I was like, great, leave it with me. And this was 1999. And so the internet was sort of vaguely up and running, but it was quite slow. So I sort of did whatever the equivalent of Google was, and up came the first sort of search result was this name. It said, Joan Ocean, Hawaii, dolphins, swimming. Click. And we went to Hawaii to swim with wild dolphins. And when we were flying in from Honolulu to the big island, Kona, basically, we sort of flew over, and we didn't realize it was a very volcanic island, obviously, but we just thought, it's Hawaii and Maui and beaches and stuff. Yeah. And it's not. So we spent ages just trying to find a beach for the first couple of days. And we were quite startled by it was quite heavy Americana. So it was sort of McDonald's and sort of Bubba Gump Shrimp Shack, which whatever's fine. But I think we're expecting something a little more spiritual, White Lotus-y. So anyway, we stayed in this little kind of Hawaiian pension place, and it was great. And our first sort of day of hunting down wild dolphins to swim with, we'd been given a number by this woman called Claudia. Or rather, her name was Claudia, and she was a marine biologist. And we thought Joan Ocean sounded a bit too hippy-dippy, so we thought we won't do that, but we found a marine biologist. So we called her and said, yep, we'll meet you tomorrow on this little pier at 9 a.m. and we'll jump on the boat and we'll go and find some dolphins. And you think, okay, great. So we met with Claudia the next morning and we said, what are the chances of getting to sort of, see wild dolphins? She went, it'll take anything between 5 and 20 minutes. We're like, okay. It's very definitive. And she said, well, they're either in the first bay, we go to the second bay, or the third bay. And we were just on her small rib boat, just Lucy, me and Claudia. So we arrived 5 minutes later, we're in a bay inside the reef, and there was a pod of about 150 dolphins just resting, because they come inside the reef so that they can rest before they go back out at night. And they're resting in that. Dolphins, we discovered, can only switch. They have to. They can't go fully to sleep. They can switch off half of their brains, but the other half to remain active. Because if the whole brain switches off, they stop breathing. So they sort of are conscious and they're very, very relaxed and very chilled. So we said to Claudia, so all of these, sort of fins everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. So, you sure they don't talk?
And Lucy, who's basically swims every day of her life, she said, "Can we get in?" And Claudia went, "Yeah." There's no one else around, it's just us. Okay. So we jumped in, and it was just sort of this kind of almost like being in a massive blue tank. And I didn't know what the visibility was. So I put my hand out to see how far I could see. And it was sort of rather beautiful. I could see my hand. I thought, oh, right, it's blue. And then there was this kind of phalanx of gray just sort of swam underneath us. It was extraordinary.
How amazing.
And what transpired over the next 2 hours was something that to this day, I'm still trying to, I know it happened because Lucy's kept a diary for decades. And we reread it, and it's all true. It hasn't sort of expanded in our minds. But effectively what happened was because Lucy was pregnant, the females gathered around her. You could hear the clicking going on relentlessly. And then all the females shepherded her away from me. And the males in the adolescence then took me to one side. And I was sort of flailing around going, this is the best thing I've ever done. And I tried to swim towards Lucy, who was about sort of 30 meters away. Having her own experience with the mothers and the females, and the males would then, and the females were like, absolutely not. And we were separated for about 2 hours. And then the males, they showed me, we started to play very, very organized games. So the first game, they sort of shepherded me into a place, and they were absolutely all over me. And of course, I'm thinking this is extraordinary. We had snorkel and flippers, and that was it. In the first game that we played, they literally gathered in a circle. It seems absurd, but it's all true. They gathered in this sort of circle. The first thing they did is they took the mickey out of me. So while I was kind of slapping around with my flippers, they then flipped on their backs and started slapping their tails as going, "You're an idiot." Really? But then they gathered around in a circle, which I was sort of invited to join, so I did. And then one of them swam down about 10 feet and then released out of its blowhole a perfect ring. Then one of them broke from the circle, swam through the ring, back out and rejoined the circle. Another one came in and did the same thing. So they were demonstrating what the game was. And then I thought, okay, it's my turn. So I sort of blundered through this thing. And then they all then flipped on their backs and started slapping their thing. And it was bizarre. And then another one suddenly appeared with in this sort of what felt like a big blue water tank. From somewhere just appeared with a leaf on its fin, dorsal fin or whatever it is, and then dropped the leaf. And then another one came down and picks it up and then swam around with it and then dropped it. And then another one came in and dropped it. And that was the game we were playing. And this went on for about 2 or 3 hours.
How magnificent.
Was astonishing. And then they decided enough was kind of enough. And then they disappeared. And then we sort of got back on the boat and we were saying to Claudia, go and follow them.
Yeah.
And she said,
no.
They've decided they've had enough. Yeah. We'll never catch them. Yeah. So we called it a day. And we were only meant to do a 1 day of 2 hours with Claudia. And when we got off the boat, we were just sort of so astonished. We said, right, see you tomorrow at 9:00. And we did it every day for our trip. Yeah, every day.
For a week?
For 10 days. And most days they were not particularly engaged, but we had about 2 or 3 other experiences. It was astonishing.
Do you think they were the same pods or they all?
It was
different?
completely the same pod. They had these. You could identify them because they had some of them had cookie cutter shark bites on them that were healed. Yeah. But you could sort of recognize them.
And are you allowed to hold on to a dolphin?
No, it was not encouraged, and nor they didn't really let. And Claudia said, don't try and stroke them, and we thought we'll respect that. Yeah. But it was astounding, and it was just Lucy and I off the coast of Hawaii swimming with these dolphins. And you come off and it's sort of, you try and tell people about it and they're like,
did that really happen?
And it truly, truly did. And the sort of the postscript to that story was that our eldest son, his full name is Angus James Blue, and Blue is named after the waters the waters of Hawaii because of that, because he was inside Lucy's tummy when all this happened. It was astounding.
That's an amazing story, very unexpected but very lovely.
Yeah, it's amazing.
How fantastic. Let's go on to your most underrated or overrated travel experience, or both. A lot of people don't like talking about overrated, so you can just do underrated. Or if you've got both, then tell me, please.
Overrated is very simple. Overrated was we thought it would be a really fun Funster thing to do, to go to a park-based holiday experience in the United Kingdom. And it was truly horrendous. Moving on. We went on Lucy was having a significant birthday. So we thought, well, right, let's go on a trip. So in 2016, we decided we could sort of tie in a few things I needed to do in Los Angeles. So we'll do Los Angeles and a few theme parks with the kids for sort of a week, and I could do a couple of work bits and bobs that I needed to do. And then we thought, well, let's return to Hawaii and take all the children and sort of try and recreate our sort of extraordinary dolphin experience, and also introduce Gus, who was then in Lucy's tummy, to said dolphins. So we went to Hawaii, and that was great. And we sort of thought, well, we wanted to do one more week of something. And a friend of mine had recommended a dude ranch in Montana. And I like horses. I'm not a massive rider. But we thought, again, a lovely thing to do with the boys. Yeah. So we'll do that week on this dude ranch. And I was sort of thinking, it'll be fine.
It's going to be easy.
I'll ride a bit of a horse and I'll wear double denim. And look like a legend for a week. And just the only place you can wear double denim and a Stetson and not look like a complete Burke. So I thought, well, who doesn't love a good costume? So I thought that would be a nice week. And the boys will ride, and that'll be great. And I'll sort of observe them having a brilliant time, and I'll just kind of hang out. So we went, and it was, well, we've been back every year since.
Have you?
Yeah.
Which one is it?
And we're going on Tuesday.
How exciting!
I did ask the people that run the ranch, because it's a place you go to, and it's only ever, they don't advertise. It's all word of mouth. So I double checked with the.
Are you allowed to disclose?
And she said, you can talk about it, but please don't mention the name. Which is quite amazing, really. Which is very unusual. Amazing. So I promised. I think if there's any good armchair detectives out there, it's a ranch in Montana. It's near the Blackfoot River, so I'm going to let people go and discover it for themselves. And you
That's
probably
really
will be able to find it.
amazing.
I know it's really extraordinary.
In this world of social media and PR, that they don't want to, that's even more wonderful, isn't it?
That's what's
a real
so extraordinary,
secret.
that they want to sort of retain its essence. In fact, they're celebrating another clue. They're celebrating the 100th anniversary this year. But to your exact point, it's a rather wonderful thing that they don't need. And they do have an Instagram account, but it's very much a kind of it's not to promote their business. It's to kind of just celebrate the stuff they get up to. And you meet the most incredible people. But I was expecting basically to watch the boys enjoy a kind of a hunt and shoot and fishing kind of experience. And I would sort of sit in my double denim and my Stetson and enjoy it through their eyes. But we met the most amazing people.
Amazing.
And it was one of those places where when you do it sort of 1 week, Saturday to Saturday, but when you arrive, you feel as though they have literally opened it for that 1 week that you're there. And then when you say goodbye on the following Saturday, they are basically going to close it down until you choose to return.
Oh, it's so
and it's something that you couldn't. It's a wonderful thing about so many travel experiences and places you can go to and places you can stay at, like a lot of hotels. You are made to feel so special that you think everyone is there basically to hang out with you and to give you a wonderful experience. And once you've gone, it just for them won't be the same again. And that, I think it's one of those amazing things that you can recreate anywhere else. Nobody could franchise this. Nobody could build it anywhere else. And that is the mark of an extraordinary place that you, let's face it, you go and pay and stay at. But to make
I might be taking you aside afterwards to ask you privately for the name, because I think it sounds amazing. I will happily
tell you.
I'm not a rider, but I've always wanted to do one of those ranches.
Well, I'm not specifically a rider either, but not only do you finish the week feeling like you could totally do 5 seasons of Yellowstone and look like you knew what you were doing, but it's, people say to you, I'm not sure I want to go on a riding holiday. And it's just not a riding holiday. You can choose to ride or not. Most people do, because you sit on a horse, but you see the most extraordinary landscapes. You have the most incredible, it's a bit like going on a walking holiday, in that with a bunch of people that you may not necessarily know, it's that the day kind of morphs from conversations that you have, and then the horse moves on a bit, and then you start another conversation, and then you also eat together. You grab a place in the main house where you have your meals, and then you're on the softball field. It's sounds
magnificent.
I will tell you,
Lovely.
Privately.
Let's go on to food and drink. Food and drink so important in life.
Massively.
We all love food, we love drink, but it's so much part of travel. So where do you eat? What do you eat? Where's your best meal been? Let's just talk about food and drink in travel.
I was very lucky. I did a film a period film that we shot in Cognac in France. And I didn't really know that area of France at all. And I also didn't realize that Cognac was only about 90 minutes from Bordeaux.
Oh, wonderful.
And if anyone ever asks me what my sort of last meal would be, it would certainly involve sort of some great bottle of Bordeaux red wine. Thank you. I'd be very happy. So we're filming in Cognac, which is this tiny, tiny little place, much smaller than I thought, given obviously the name Cognac. It's globally recognized drink. But I had a weekend in Bordeaux, and a friend of mine, a lovely man called Tom Hudson, who works for Far Vintners, he said, "Oh, you're going to be in Cognac, so you have to go and do a wine tasting in one of the sort of the great chateaux of Bordeaux." I said, "Well, that would be great." And he said, "Well, let me organize it for you." I said, "Thank you very much indeed." So he said, he phoned me and said, "Friday's the best day to go. I've sorted out a private tasting at Chateau Haut-Brion." I thought, oh, right. No, that's right up there. That's sort of a big dog. So couple of friends of mine, a friend of mine, Adam James, an actor, and his wife Vix came out for the weekend. And so Friday morning, we sort of rolled into this sort of Chateau Haut-Brion, which is right on the outskirts of the city, which I didn't realize. I was expecting sort of vineyards as far as the eye could see, but it's really on the edge of Bordeaux city, which also I didn't realize that Bordeaux was sort of designed and based to be a mini Paris.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So there's a lot of reflections of Paris in Bordeaux, which made me fall in love with the city completely, because I find Paris quite kind of... I've never loved Paris the way a lot of people love Paris. I don't know why. I just sort of, I just, for some reason, never quite got into my veins. And then I go to Bordeaux and go, oh, mini Paris, right up my street.
And wine.
So we go to Haut-Brion, and it's incredibly quiet. There's nobody around at all. So we're thinking, well, where do we go? And there was just one person in a vineyard who literally, it was a really hot day, and they had an umbrella. And they were just sort of picking a grape and looking at it. I thought, there's no industry here. It is lit. What? How does this work? So we go up to this lovely private room, and they had this mat set out and said, private tasting in honor of, which was rather sweet.
Oh my God, how amazing.
And there was just this one person, and out came these incredibly beautiful, expensive bottles of wine. And we were tasting them, which we did. And my friend Adam said at the end, he said to the person, what happens to these wines when we leave? And she said, I'd rather not say. And he said, what do you get to take them home? And she went, no, I'd rather not say.
Oh
God, I hope I don't get this woman into trouble. Anyway, so Adam, who's much more front foot than I am, said, could we take them? And she went, oh no, that's not something we do. He went, oh, but what happens to the wine? And she said, I'd rather not say. And he said, you don't. And she went, I'd rather not. He was like, oh my God, you literally throw them away, don't you? Let's just say that they weren't thrown away.
You just sat there.
We may have clanked around a little bit.
I'm surprised you remember it.
It was amazing. But that evening we went to lovely Tom Hudson from Farm Vintners and said, well, where should we go and eat? Where should we go and eat? And he said, go to a place called La Tupina, which is, you walk in and there's this sort of counter of flesh in front of you and an open fire with the most astonishingly understandable wine list. He said, you have to go and eat in La Tupina. So we went to La Tupina, and all this kind of beef and lamb, whatever, was made on this open fire. And we ate that, and we tore through the wine list and just had the best evening. And it was
amazing.
At the end of an amazing day. But food is incredibly important wherever you go. Of course it is. It's an opportunity to have a completely, again, culturally sensual experience involving food.
And joyous with company.
And it's always about the company. Yeah. It's always about the company.
Yeah,
and also I'm on a worldwide hunt, given that work takes me all over the place. And very fortunately, sometimes they put us up in some quite nice hotels. I'm on the worldwide hunt for the greatest breakfast buffet of all time. And that is a private challenge I will remain on for the rest of my days.
Well, a lady who was on the podcast yesterday was talking about Mauritius.
Okay.
And she said the reason she loved this place was because the buffet was so sensational for breakfast, lunch and dinner that even if they sent her to other restaurants for dinner, like the Michelin star restaurant, her and her partner would then circle back and have the buffet. And she said, and particularly the breakfast buffet.
I think a breakfast buffet is truly the greatest experience. And if you can hold off so you're really hungry. My brother-in-law, Phil, he's the king of a buffet. He has a plan. So there's a gorgeous hotel we've been to. My wife's family have been going there for 70 years. It's this tiny little ski resort in Austria. It's a hotel called the Hotel Post in a little tiny resort called Lermoos. It's very low in the mountains, so snow can be a bit ropey, but when it's good, it's wonderful. Very family-run hotel. The food is unbelievably good. They should be Michelin starred up to the hill, but I think they're just not worried about it.
Yeah.
They don't want to get involved in that world.
Yeah.
But once a week, they have what they call their gala buffet. And to watch my brother-in-law work that buffet, he's like a guru. He literally removes all the bread rolls from the table. He said, no, we're not going there. He does a sweep first, and then he reports back to the table. Whereas Lucy, my wife, panics. So she'll go to the buffet and she'll come back with a plate of pasta, tiramisu, and anything else. And she'll look at it and with such disgust and just go, oh God, I panicked. I didn't know what to do. Phil will just carefully. He goes, basic protein, salads. Perfect.
Amazing. I tell you where they have an amazing buffet. We were talking about it earlier, Passalacqua on Lake Como and Grand Hotel Tremezzo. I think you might find your best buffet.
Good.
And you might spend the whole morning there and get up early to do so.
What time do they close? Which is always a worry.
Exactly. I think probably about 11 so that they can prepare for lunch. So if you get there early.
So if you can do sort of 9 for 2 hours. And then I'm good until dinner because I love dinner. Yeah. I can't not do. I think dinner is just socially and culturally the most glorious time to spend in company. And also dinners can kind of accidentally roll on. I will say lunches can also accidentally roll on. So lunches, dinners are great. But if you put a gun to my head, I'd say the best breakfast buffet in the world. Clearly, I'm going to get that off you, and then I will hold off until
really
some
nice
sensational dinner.
When you filmed Night Manager was it Mallorca? Mm-hmm. Did you stay in a hotel? Did you have great food there? What was that like?
We did. We stayed. Well, we had 3 weeks. Part of our Mallorcan sort of extravaganza was we were filming in I think it's called La Fortaleza, which is this extraordinary property that used to be owned by, when we were filming there, owned by James Lupton. Who's a Brit, and he owned it at that point, and it was this extraordinary on the peninsula just near Pollensa. I mean, it's the most beautiful place, and a lot of people now know it from the show. He's now sold it to someone else, but it was an astounding place. So we stayed relatively near there, and we then kind of rather brilliantly retreated into the heavenly notion, which is such a lovely thing to do in Europe or anywhere really, those kind of port fish places. Simple, cold white wine, fresh fish, straight off the boat, and almost plastic chairs, but beautifully simple food cooked simply and gorgeously. Grilled fish, green salads, great company. I mean, again, so many fond memories of sitting with Hugh Laurie and Tom, the Toms, Hollander and Hiddleston and Elizabeth Debicki and stuff, and just having kind of after in the warmth, having had another sort of great day at work, of which we knew we were doing something kind of we thought that was really rather good.
It was amazing.
And then because also we traveled as a pack, so many times filming you can do your stuff and it won't involve other people, but because we were this kind of unit, because we were traveling as sort of Roper's gang, so that meant that we were filming all day and then basically hanging out in the evening as well.
There's that very great scene in that restaurant on the sea.
Yeah.
And that's in Dare. That's become very famous after The Night Manager, hasn't it? Because everyone Googles, what is that restaurant? Do you know what that's called?
I can't remember. Someone actually, I've had 3 people in the last 3 weeks have said,
asked you
separately, and they don't know each other, said, oh, we went to The Night Manager restaurant when we were in Mallorca. And in fact, a friend of my sister's organised a birthday party and they recreated the entire trip. Yeah. So they hired the 2 boats that Hugh and I drove in the show. They hired them. They came around from Port Andratz, and then they came in blasting out the Night Manager theme music. They rented out the place. It was for a 50th birthday, and then they had an entire dinner. And when my sister told me, my sister was at this party. When my sister told me that that's what they were doing, I phoned Hugh and said, Hugh, could you write a letter in the style of Richard Roper that she could read out at the dinner?
Oh, that was so cool. And did he?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so brilliant.
So yeah, it's called the Cas Patro March, I think.
Fantastic. And I actually think that's a brilliant way to do a birthday. And if I do it, I might be asking you to come.
It's really good. And also because they've got a just up the hill, and you can walk down from it. It used to be I think it may be still called the Residencia.
Yes.
So that I think it's still called that. I think the Belmont Group now own it.
Yes, it was Richard Branson.
Richard Branson, yeah. And I know when we were filming there, Tom Hiddleston stayed there for I think a night or two, rather than travel back to where we were staying in Palma. And I think he just thought, do you know what, I'm going to treat myself. Why not? So he did.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Very lovely. Let's go on to your top travel tip.
Top travel tip is, I always like to think that if you can make your journey to your destination a part of your holiday or trip or whatever, then, so the moment I leave the front door, I try and make the travel bit a part of the experience. Now, whether that's trying to sort of choose a time to fly that suits you, or whether, I mean, it's like going to the States. Flying to the States, flying that direction is great because you think, oh, I can arrive in time for dinner. And whatever your method of travel, and you don't have to fly fancy class all the time at all. But if you can find a way to negotiate the traveling experience, because airports can be a pain in the backside, they can be tedious. But if there's a way to sort of make it as sort of comfortable and to look forward to it, because I think also sometimes when you're traveling, you dread the return journey. You think, oh God, and 2 days before you're thinking this is going to be horrendous. So if you can somehow mitigate that difficulty and tedium of the actual traveling bit and fold it into the nature of the trip, then that's what I try and do. And the other thing is, I think my other travel tip is always have a travel caper in your back pocket, whether it's a weekend away or whether it's some trip in 2 years' time, always have a caper. And I always do. There's never a time, I think, that I don't have something up my sleeve, be it on my own. I spent a month in New York recently to do some work I needed to take. I'm preparing for a job, so I wanted to go somewhere where I could work on it. And then my wife came out for the weekend. Two of my boys came out for the weekend. That was great. So it can be a sort of travel solus on your own caper, or a familial one with all the gang, or with a partner, but always have some form of a travel caper up your sleeve.
That's great. I love that. Always something to look forward to.
Always something to look forward to. So never not. And if you think, oh, I haven't got one, find one. And it could be a couple of days. It doesn't matter. Or it could be something epic, but always have one up your sleeve.
No, I love that. And I love the other one about make the travel part of it, either by saying, okay, I'll do it slowly and I'll do a train or something like that, which is wonderful.
Precisely that. How can I do it and make the journey to and from my destination as a part of the trip? So the moment you leave your door and the moment you put your key in and you walk back in, it's all been part of the same experience rather than a trauma, because travel can be.
Well, I think airports are now very traumatic. And I think there's a very good thing called Priority Pass that you can buy.
Very good, yeah.
So if you've got an Amex, you get one anyway.
Yeah.
But if you haven't, you can buy it. And it's something like £50 a year. But you can then use the lounges. So you can be flying in economy anywhere.
Totally.
But use the lounge because
completely.
You might be delayed
whatever. I think you can get canny with airports as well. I was flying up to, because airports, just given the scale that they need to be, can be horrendous. And you sort of arrive again holding your breath thinking, is this going to be a nightmare? And arriving into JFK, in fact, one of your previous guests and one of your future guests, I was told that a story that they were flying into JFK and the queue to get through JFK was 5 hours long.
Yeah, it's
horrendous. Whereas I've flown into LAX and it's taken me 30 seconds. So there is the way of doing it that you fly from London to Shannon or Dublin, clear immigration,
customs.
Then you're straight in. So there's lots of little, I think I'm a real bargain hunter throughout life. I think, if there's something that you pay for, never pay any full price for anything because you don't need to. There's lots of ways. And I think I sort of treat that in terms of sort of travel hacks as well. I think, how can I mitigate? So things like I flew recently from Edinburgh and they said, oh, do you want to fly? Where do you want to fly from? And I thought, I'm going to fly from Exeter, because it's tiny, it's a shed. And I think I'm just doing an hour's flight, but I've still got to spend basically an entire day navigating Heathrow. And I went from Exeter because I thought, I'll drive to Exeter. So there's lots of little hacks to avoid queues and all sorts of stuff.
I think that Shannon thing is brilliant.
It's amazing.
Because you literally clear customs in Ireland, takes 2 minutes, and then you go straight into domestic. It's fantastic.
Exactly that. So
really is good.
And I think a lot of times when we're planning sort of travel trips, sort of assume certain things. It's like, well, it's this airline probably from this airport and whatever time we can sort of get given. And I just don't think that's the case. I think you can, it's not about spending money at all. It can just be about being quite
clever.
wily.
Yeah. I went to Istanbul recently with Richard E. Grant. We had the most hilarious weekend. It was brilliant. And we stayed at the Peninsula, which is brand new. And when we got off the plane, they had a board with my name and a buggy that drove us from the aeroplane through the airport. And it is the most enormous airport. I mean, it is so big, we would have been walking for hours. Plus, we wouldn't have known where we were going. And the Peninsula has that service anyway, but you can actually pay for that service.
That's the other thing.
It's a really good thing to know about. I mean, yes, you do have to pay for it, but it's not expensive. So find out what those little hacks are.
There are so many out there, but it comes down to the same thing. Make your journey a part of your travel experience and plan it.
Yeah, plan it. Are you going to tell us what you're doing in New York or not? Is it a secret?
Well, I took myself off to New York because I wanted to sort of secrete myself. I love New York as a city. I hadn't been for a long time. And I sort of wanted to return, and I love it. There's so many aspects of New York that I love, and I found lots of places that I had sort of been recommended, certainly in terms of sort of restaurants and things to do, which I loved. And little things like don't go on a day trip ferry around the islands. Just get on the Staten Island ferry and pay $2. And get the return journey, things like that. But I went to New York because I'm preparing to do Hamlet at the National Theatre, and I thought, right, I need to kind of understand it and learn it and get on with it. So I thought, why don't I go and do it in New York? So I went to New York and I rented an apartment for a month, and I worked on the play. And I went to see theatre, and I went through a whole list of restaurant recommendations that I sort of had curated from people that I know and love and trust who know that city, and I would very happily go in with a book and eat on my own and meet. And of course, everyone's incredibly lovely, because then the waiting staff would just go, "Hi," and you go, "Hello," and then conversations would begin, and they say, "Oh, you should try this." So lots of What
was your favourite find that you didn't get, that you hadn't been to before?
I had been recommended a bunch of places. There was a place, I think my favorite experience was Little Owl in New York.
Owl?
Little Owl.
Oh, I don't
So
know
Little Owl is a restaurant in the West Village. It's tiny, tiny, tiny. And it had been recommended to me by a friend of mine who said, "Oh, you're going to New York." And he's very smart. So every time he goes anywhere, whenever he travels, he has a list of restaurants that he either goes to or loves. And he keeps that list, which is rather good. It's like a little Rolodex of lovely bars, restaurants. If you want to go late night jazz, he just has this list. So I always ask him. So
and did he give you the list?
He gave me the list.
Fabulous.
So Little Owl was, I arrived at this place in the West Village, tiny, tiny. And we went for my sons. We went to New York with my sons for their 21st birthday. We thought, you can buy stuff, but I think experiences are always far more valuable rather than here's a thing.
Yeah.
I don't need any more stuff in my life, but experiences, I will consume them. No, quite. We're overburdened with stuff, whatever that stuff is. So we decided, so we went to New York, and this was a recommendation, and we went with my twin sons to Little Owl, and we arrived in this, it's this tiny little restaurant. They've got a kitchen the size of it. I mean, a galley kitchen, and a very small menu. And the staff are fabulous. And as we arrived, there was about 30 people standing outside, kind of gawping at this building, taking photographs. And we thought, what
are they doing?
What are they doing? And as it transpires, it's the shot that they use for the exterior of the Friends apartment in the show Friends.
Really?
The restaurant's not remotely connected to it, and they're just used to it. But it's literally just an exterior stock shot that they use.
And everyone has that on there.
And everyone has it on their tourist bucket list, which is fine. But the restaurant's nothing to do with it. And it's a tiny restaurant, tiny, and the food is completely delicious, fresh, local, all the rest of it. And they make a hell of a Negroni.
Oh, my favourite drink.
Mine too.
I am definitely going when I go to New York in September.
Do you ever have a Sbagliardo?
I've had them because
they
everyone's been...
do the same thing.
It's not for me.
Okay.
It gives me a bit of a headache. I think it's the Prosecco.
It's the Prosecco.
Yeah. So I'm much happier. And actually at the Peninsula here where we're filming this, they have the most brilliant Negronis on the 8th floor.
Do they?
In Brooklyn.
You see,
really
that goes on the curated list.
Definitely.
8th floor, Peninsula London, Negroni.
Yeah.
I
Honestly,
guarantee I will be doing it.
I really, really recommend it. And I
Amazing.
know also the best place in Rome to have one as well. So I should
Great.
tell you, it's a
I need
secret
that.
garden.
We'll swap. Okay,
We'll swap tips.
Ranch,
Negroni.
secret Roman garden.
Tell me about your most poignant travel experience.
I mean, there's so much about travel that is poignant, but I think luckily of the many I could choose from, when we were in India, we were about to see the Taj Mahal, and we were sort of picked up by our local guide from the place we were staying at, and we were staying just around the corner. We couldn't sort of see it. And as we came sort of round the corner, there was a sort of the entrance bit before you sort of see it. And he very sweetly just sort of said, as we were walking, he said, I just want you to look left, not right, because I want you to see it at a certain point. I don't want you to sort of see it through a sort of a gap. And we were like, okay. So we sort of walked and we looked left. And we sort of walked, and then we got to a certain point. He said, and now turn around. And we turned around, and we were all together as a family. And it was, it was built as an act of love. And as we turned around and saw the Taj Mahal, I had this very kind of emotional, visceral reaction, seeing something which everyone knows kind of what it looks like. Everyone's seen umpteen photographs of it, but to sort of see it in the flesh, and because it was built as an act of love, I felt incredibly moved. And I was standing surrounded by my nearest and dearest, and I just was I was incredibly moved. And I didn't quite know where it came from, because it's a building, and it's a really well-known building, and it's one of the top tourist destinations in the world. But I had this kind of intensely emotional kind of beat when I saw it, and which completely took me by surprise. And for some reason, it just meant so much to me to see this thing. And I've oddly had it again with the first time I saw something completely different, which was the Sydney Opera House. We came around from Manly, and I saw that. I mean, this was years ago, and I saw it, and I was so overwhelmed to see something that everyone knows what it looks like. But when you see something in the flesh, yourself with your own eyes, I had a visceral emotional reaction to it.
How wonderful.
And I've never forgotten. And the fact that we were all together as this little sort of familial unit, I had a very lovely private moment. And I almost don't want to overanalyze it, but seeing something so beautiful that had been built with love,
and that really
surrounded by people that I loved, was remarkable.
How beautiful.
Taj Mahal.
Lovely. I asked you to bring a photograph.
Yes.
Can you please show me the photograph, describe the photograph, and tell us how it sums up travel to you?
So I like to think I'm quite self-deprecating because I'm British, and that's what we're supposed to be. So, I mean, I could have brought a picture of a beautiful beach or something extraordinary or something. Anyway, I haven't. The photograph I brought, and I touched on it earlier, is me. Well, I'll show it to you, and then I'll let you decide how you feel about it.
That is brilliant.
I can describe it to you before anyone else sees it.
Absolutely fantastic.
So this is a photograph. I'm wearing cream leather cowboy boots. I'm wearing denim. I'm wearing red cowboy chaps that some might consider slightly inappropriate now looking at it. A vintage red shirt with horses on it, a Stetson. I've got my hands on my hips. So this is at this ranch we go to.
I love it.
It's amongst all the wonderful things you can do when you're traveling, it is, I think, truly the only place that you can properly almost dress up in a costume and not feel like a complete Burke, actually fit in. And when I put this clobber on, I sort of thought, oh, this is slightly actory, showing off it, and no one batted an eyelid. They thought, and I sort of strode into the corral thinking that people would go, you look like a legend or you're an idiot. And
nobody said anything.
No one said a word. I think if it sums up travel, it means you can go to places, you can be who you want to be, you can sort of let yourself go, you can be free, and chances are nobody will really mind.
It's absolutely fantastic. And before I let you go, what's next for you as an actor? Where are you going next? Just tell me what the plans are.
Well, we'll have The Night Manager 2, which will be coming out on a screen at some point in the next few months, which is great. And I'm returning to the theatre for the first time in 10 years.
In Hamlet.
In Hamlet at the National Theatre, playing Claudius, sort of the great king of Denmark. And Hamlet's nemesis, and it's exciting and daunting, and in London, which is great.
Wonderful. Who's Hamlet?
A lovely actor called Hiran Abisekara, who played the lead in Life of Pi on stage and won numerous awards
he was
for
brilliant.
it, and he's wonderful.
Yeah, really brilliant.
So we start rehearsing that shortly. And hopefully all the work that I did while traveling in New York is going to drag that with me. And so that'll that. And then as soon as we finish that, I'm going to dash off to Kenya for Christmas with my family, to see family that we have over there. We didn't even touch on Kenya, but
do you go to Kenya every year?
We had a little place there for about 15 years, a little tiny place on a beach. We've got family there. And originally it was sort of part of the ethos of what we wanted to do, which was the notion of having this little place was that it might be potentially in the future a platform for our then young children to explore a continent that we haven't even had the chance to talk about, which is one of the most extraordinary places in the world. And so we try and get back there. A lot of cousins gather and all of that. So it's very much a family-based thing in one of the most beautiful, friendly, most amazing places on
Is that Lamu?
No, it's Watamu, which is just south of Malindi. And Christmas is a gathering of everyone descends there. It's huge, huge fun. There's tons to do. The food is amazing. You can go fishing. You can do all sorts of things. So we're going to finish Hamlet a few days. I'm actually going to try and do a little sneaky trip to New York just to sort of get my fill of that city for a weekend. And then, then we'll be spending Christmas as soon as I finish the play.
And to the Dude Ranch next week?
To the Dude Ranch, next week. We're spending 4 days. We found this amazing little on Airbnb, this tiny little place, which is on a lake in Coeur d'Alene in Idaho. So we fly into Seattle, we drive from Seattle, we spend 4 days just on this little lake house, swimming in the lake, that's it, decompressing. A week, dressed like that photograph, unashamedly so, and then we come home, and then I start rehearsing.
Well, it has been a joy and delight to go around the world with you. I've absolutely loved every minute. Good luck with everything coming up.
Thank you, Tanya.
And
thank you.
Let me know where you want to go.
Oh my God, all over. There's many more capers to be had.
Thank you, Alistair.
Thank you.